Larrabee.
Here.
Mayor Coogan.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed to be acknowledged and permissible. This is a meeting where the superintendent explains to us his goals. Go ahead there, Dr. Malone.
So, appreciate the committee being here tonight. This is the fifth year we've done this now. We're going to do it a little differently tonight, but this is where we establish a set of goals. They're called the Superintendents Goals, but really what they are the district improvement goals that the entire, everything else we do is aligned underneath. So it defines really our district improvement plan and our school improvement plans, because this is what you're holding me accountable to achieve as a district. So given that I've worked with you now with this specific committee for over a year, we pretty much have been focused on all the right work, and each year we define and upgrade. So what we took the luxury of, which we do every year, is my team worked on developing a much deeper set of goals than we've done in the past. And as you can see from the document that you have, it's not the document I emailed to you on Friday. It's a document that was just handed out to you because we've actually worked on it all weekend and refined it more today. And you can see it's a pretty intense articulation of what it is that we feel strongly the district needs to do to continue to move forward. There's 9 goals articulated in this document. The first is the reopening plan, and really if you think about goals, our number one goal this year is to get on the field again. And what I mean by that is managing our school reopening. So that is a goal, because that's not going anywhere. That's here, that's with us now, and it's not something we're going to check the box off on Wednesday, because it's an ongoing process. We could be open, we could be closed, we could be open again. So this is a year-long goal until COVID goes away. So we have our first goal, of course, is the reopening. Our second goal is the district performance. This is the articulated metrics that the state uses to measure our district. Now, granted, a lot of what we have here this year is going to be, we just talked about with the evaluation, is going to be, we're not going to be able to measure because there was no data this year from the state. But there will be data this year. So we'll still, it's a good goal to have, because this is what, how we get ranked, how we get ordered by the by the department. And we have a learning and teaching goal, and that's really around the formative use of data, so our own data. So we're going to be able to give you, as you can see, where we talk about success will be measured by, we talk about ANET assessments and DIBELS and the other math programs and other electronic support programs that we have. So we're going to be able to give you, as a committee, ongoing formative data as to where our students are and what we're doing. Another goal that we talked about this year, and this really came out of bargaining, and as you know, you guys made some tough decisions, the elimination of ELT. But with the Student Opportunity Act, we have an opportunity to say, well, let's look at ELT differently. Maybe we do ELT for a shortened period of time, but across all schools in the district. So one of our goals this year is to really look through this and bring back to the committee a proposal for FY22. Can we, and as you know, we have 7 years of SOA funding that's coming. So this is not like, well, maybe we can do it. This is something that we can do, and it was actually part of our original Student Opportunity Act. On the second page, we talk about how we're going to be looking at GATE programming. This year we eliminated the 4th grade and went to universal design. The plan calls for this coming year eliminating the 5th grade. So then we'd have universal design at grades 4 and 5, but then expand GATE programming at the three middle schools, all three middle schools. And what we've articulated here is to continue the rollout, come back to the committee this spring, assess where we are, talk about what our needs are, and then move forward with the committee's approval at that time. We also talk about, and I know Mr. Corey was a big part of the work around the two-way immersion program, the dual language program. So as you know, we backed off implementation this year because we just couldn't do it with everything else we had going on. So we're going to keep the committee informed, we're going to keep training, and the goal is that we roll out a robust two-way immersion program in Spanish at Viveris this coming year. So there's a lot of work that has to happen between now and then to get this off the ground, and we capture that here. We then have a fourth goal around special education. I know Committee Member Aguirre is the chair of that subcommittee and has been speaking with me since I met him about special education. And I do want to say to the committee, I think you all know we've had a great year in special education. I think some of the decisions that we've made, some of the leadership transition that's occurred, the outreach work and the strategic planning in special education is something that we're proud of. We continue to align our programs. So you can see some specific actions that we're going to be doing around program alignment and collaboration with the new collaborative that we're a member of, that Mr. Corey will serve on as the board member, and then also partnerships with other providers like the Landmark School. Really strong PD for our people. This is something new. So I think the strategic plan that Mr. Loesch has brought forward and shared with the committee, the ongoing work, that's all a part of what the improvements that we're looking to address in special education. You can see we've articulated for each one of these how we're going to measure success. Now granted, when you guys evaluate me, it's always like, you know, did you or didn't you? Or is it, you know, proficient, or was it, you know, not meeting standards, or whatever the rankings are, but we've given some actual metrics here. Can we increase this by 5%? Can we decrease this by 10%? These are important to us, and you can see how we've articulated them. Our fifth goal that we're proposing to the school committee is around early childhood education. And we have our director of early childhood actually sitting here now, and she's been a great addition to this department. But we think about the long-term strategy moving forward. Early childhood, we've said this all along. I think the mayor has made it part of his platform from the City Hall, as we have in our Student Opportunity Act. If money wasn't a problem this year, we would have rolled out many more early childhood programs, but we did make progress, and we were able to convert some of our half-day program into full-day program for 4-year-olds. But we have a lot of work to do. So this is an important goal for this coming year, for the following year, but also really about communicating as to what it is that we're doing and building these networks, looking at trends and the financial implications, et cetera, et cetera. Then, as you know, we always have a goal around facilities and operations. So we have a facilities, capital improvements, and transportation goal. It's a real operations goal. And we articulate some of the major projects and outcomes that we're looking for this year. As Mr. Costa knows, for us, the most important one, and Mr. Hetzler and the mayor who sit on the committee, the building of the Durfee High School, that's coming online prior to this fiscal year being over. So that's a big piece of this, plus finishing all the other components. But we also, you know, as we talk about COVID, you know, HVAC, that's a big part. So we've articulated that here, and we've identified how we would measure success. And our seventh goal really ties into pretty much the work that every single person across this table has really focused on since they've become school committee members. And those are our pathways. So our Chapter 74 programs, our alternative education programs, and our dual enrollment programs with BCC and Bridgewater State. All the work that we've done in this area, I think, is really some of the best work that I'm most proud of in the district, but there's still so much to do. So you can see we've taken a whole page here, really articulating some objectives that we want to achieve and then how we'll be measuring them. One of the things I'm really excited about, and I think you are too, although I don't want to speak for you, but, Dr. Curley's been great in really operationalizing all of our goals. So when we talk about trying to improvement planning, we're talking about, well, how do we measure it? So you can see for each one of these, we've articulated a set of measurements. Finally, the 8th goal is around human capital, about all the important work that we do for recruiting, selecting, hiring, and onboarding, and then training and promoting faculty and staff. So we have articulated a set of goals really around continuing to diversify, continuing to promote from within, all those pieces of our work, plus the professional development and training that we need to do to break down systemic barriers to progress, et cetera. And we've articulated those. And then, as you know, and thank God we got Bruce Assad as our as our school committee attorney. We have 8 major contracts we've got to ratify this year. So let's negotiate and ratify. And that is also a major goal of our committee. So these are what we brought forward to the committee for discussion. And what happens now is I'm going to get up and stand over there, and you guys can turn that way. And I'm going to call out, and you can just shout. And we'll articulate some things that aren't on here that are important to you, and we can figure out how these can be articulated in our strategic goals or embedded already in a larger piece now. So if I could ask you to bear with me and maybe just turn your chairs if your back's that way, and this is how we do it every year. Usually we get in a little circle, but we don't have that luxury. So with that, I got some documents up here, and I can write on these, and I just call it what do you want as a goal this year that we haven't identified, and if it's already been identified, great. If it hasn't, let's figure out how we can add it.
Well, it's been identified already, but I'd obviously like to see more of an increase. Of course, the spaces is important. It's a pre-K program.
Yes, so in terms of the capital facility needs, you mean space? Okay. So one of the things we talked about in the prior year was, looking at next level MSBA program. We talked about the Globe Street facility. What do we used to call that? That was where Stone used to be?
Yeah, the old Stone.
Yeah, the old Stone is a potential for a next iteration MSBA project, if there ever is one. And whether or not, if we did the study, does that become an early childhood center or another school, and then we can put early childhood in all the schools. So it would be, to be part of the study, I think would be the best thing for us.
Right.
Is to at least just get into the pipeline for, what do they call that, before you get accepted, they do a self-study.
Feasibility
A
study.
feasibility study.
Can we just go to human capital number 8
Yes.
and how we're going to measure that?
Yes.
Don't you think those goals should measure a little more lofty than increase adjusted teacher retention rate from 87 to 88%? So we're looking at 1% increase on retention and increase the rate of racially and ethnically diverse staff by 1%.
So we had a
How many
real,
staff do we have total?
not many, and we had a real hard time
So
getting there with
1%
those.
is how many people we're looking to bring on?
Couple. This year we improved somewhat, but if you don't have, right now, I don't have a retention rate to compare it against. That's why, these are just drafts in terms of, I'm gonna have a couple, we have till the 19th. So the 19th of October, I'll bring forward, goals for, approval. Between now and then, Mark, I'm gonna have some more information from the state so we can actually do a better job getting measurable with those.
We don't know what our current teacher retention rate is?
No,
HR doesn't have that?
no. The way the state calculates, it's very, remember, they calculated based on.
They've given us that in the past, right?
Yeah, I know, but last year was such a different year, Mark, that we're behind on every single indicator They don't, right now don't have any metrics they can actually give us yet. So they told us that we'll have something in the first.
So where did 87 to 88 come from? We don't know what it
The year
was.
before.
What's that?
The year before is a place set.
And the 1% increase? I mean, is that just a,
It's a good, pretty good goal to try to increase. I mean, 1% if you think about 800 faculty, and we're looking at
8?
8.
Right.
I mean, this year, I think we have new hires, we're probably around that.
Do we know what our percentage of racially and ethnically staff are now? Like in terms of,
I can,
Where are we
yes,
at?
I'm gonna, yes, I'll articulate that in the next
Okay.
draft.
I mean, I'm all in favor for all those areas, and I think I talked about that in your previous evaluation, that I think we really should be making an attempt to have our faculty and staff mirror the students that they teach in some way, shape, or form. So I'm in favor of how we're gonna measure that. I just think we can be a little more ambitious in terms of what percentages we're gonna use in terms of waivers and retention rate and increasing our racially and ethnically diverse staff by 1%. I just think we can be more ambitious in those areas, but.
Right.
So talk about gate on here, and I'm excited to see that it's, still being talked about, because I really love the program myself. So I'm curious, this year with the fourth graders, we're gonna have some kids that are advanced, and are we doing something? We talked about the universal design.
Universal design.
So I just want to ensure that something's gonna happen for those students this year, and that we don't have a year where the fourth graders who are advanced, it's kind of like stagnant, and they just get,
So this is what this whole year is all about, is continuing the training and rolling out universal design in each of the schools. The big schools, it's easy to do. In the smaller schools, it's a little more difficult with only 2 units. But using this methodology around differentiation and how you can push rigor, I think I'm going to be able to show you this year, what's working, what isn't.
So we're gonna try something this year.
Oh, we are.
Definitely, and in the fourth grade, we're not,
Yes.
all right, that's my concern.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mark.
Dr. Malone,
Oh, okay.
on early childhood for the 4-year-old programs, future SOA funding, is that a projection? Or is that something that you've already figured out
So,
financially?
Tommy, you were a big part of the whole SOA in general. You know that it's a 7-year implementation, and this year was supposed to be the first of 1/7 of the total, but this year was really, in the governor's budget, was really only 1/14, and we probably received 1/21 of the actual, when all is said and done. So
Bless you.
we have a huge percentage of money, as long as the law doesn't change, to be implemented in the next 6 years. So for us, with early childhood, Student Opportunity Act was really all about early childhood. That was the key strategy to close gaps.
So my question is more along the financing of it. Is like a lot of the SOA funding is being held in abeyance, I guess, right now, in regard to the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, I would say not so much in abeyance, but we probably got, like I said, less than as I said, 1/21 of the entire. So if we think about the math on that, we probably have 2 or 3%, 4% of what the total 100% that's coming at us came in. We got about 96% of all the dollars coming ahead of us over the next 6 years.
So that's basically a projection.
It's a projection, but yeah, based on what the actual final House Senate budget was.
Over the summer, we had a meeting in regard to mastery, the concept of mastery learning.
Yes.
Is it- And there was a lot of pros to that concept that may help to influence our population here in Fall River. I was wondering if that was given any thought.
It was, I probably used the wrong terms, but if we think about, let's not use GATE for a second. I want you to think about honors. So if we build an honors pipeline in the Fall River Public Schools that gets to AP, essentially at the high school level, that's really building a mastery modality, right? Because students have to demonstrate mastery to show progress, et cetera. That coupled with what we have going on in alternative ed down at RPA are two areas where we articulated the concept of mastery learning. So I can probably tighten that up and make sure it says, uses that terminology.
Mark?
Doc, on number 3, learning and teaching,
Yes.
can we, so we have Watson, we have Fonseca, and they stick to the accountability at some point, Durfee.
We need to say something about
Right,
level
we
4.
gotta do something with those.
No, we have to say something.
Right, I mean, do more than say something, we gotta come up with a plan on how we're gonna get Watson back on track, and now we're heading out.
Right, we have been. I mean, these are what, remember, they have very prescriptive, approved state plans.
Right.
Each one of those buildings. But what you're saying to me is, Matt, in our plan, we have to say how we're project managing the 7 schools
Right.
that are in state.
But, yeah, right, yeah, in particular, the ones that, come to mind, obviously, is Watson, I mean, Fonseca, and, I know Durfee really hasn't gotten any traction in a number of years, and so I think that needs to be a focus. I mean, we got one high school, we're gonna be moving into a brand new facility, and we can't have our high school being one of the lowest 10% or 7% in the state, I mean, or whatever it is, 4%, I mean, so we gotta put some effort and energy into a plan for Durfee, and how do we, and this is gonna be a tough year to do that because of all the changes, and I get it, but we gotta really start.
So I'm gonna
offering up some
create
support.
in that first performance accountability piece, I'll create a whole separate thing about the 7 school turnaround plan specifically. What we're doing with project management.
Right, and how the executive team is gonna focus some time, effort, and energy and support on those schools to get them, back on track.
Yep.
I know we've tried a number of things, but, and I know this year is gonna be a tough year for moving a dial or a needle because you got students who are gonna be in school, out of school, some are gonna be in a hybrid model, so, so it will be difficult, but if we're gonna be held to that same accountability standard, then we really gotta focus on how we're gonna ramp up, those schools.
Yep. I'm clear.
Dr. Malone, on the Durfee aspect, the high school, FRPS will increase in collective understanding of how effectively educate, support, and celebrate a diverse student body. In the years past, Durfee had a program deemed very productive and successful, which was Peaceful Coalition. Is there something that we could look into to get something like that started again?
Yeah, so,
Especially with the high school age kids?
As you know, my original plan before the COVID was that I was going to be bringing back, I was going to budget for a similar type of programming with designated staff through the Student Opportunity Act. But that didn't happen. We just didn't have the money, so I wasn't able to do it. But that is something that I can work on continuing to plan as we think about long-term strategy.
With that being said, is that something that we could work on maybe at the middle school level as well?
Well, I think I wanted to get a home run in place first at the high school,
Kevin's got a couple.
and then roll down,
Let him do it.
long-term strategy at the middle level. Same, like I'm trying to do with CBTE at the middle level as well.
Thank you.
Yes, so yes,
Yes is the answer.
yes.
Okay, we're almost done, but Kevin's got a few questions.
Just on that same note, the issue of money, you just mentioned it a couple of times. I'm of the belief, listening to the meetings, that we have money. So when I hear like we can't do the pre-K because of money, we can't do that program because of money, it's kind of questioning in my head that I don't necessarily buy that.
You see where we are with 100%. I was supposed to get 15 million, I ended up with 11.
Separate from the Student Opportunity Act money.
Oh,
We have money, so like if there's a need for a program or something, like I would rather not just say, let's wait another year. We have money, millions of dollars in CARES money that we can use for CARES stuff, but we have,
But I didn't want to build any,
Contingents.
I didn't want to build any structural deficit using CARES money for operating program, but I may come back and ask for some of that throughout the year. So, tonight I got a couple of requests with that money that will.
no, I hear you. No, I'm only making a point on if there's programs that we need in the schools currently,
All right, so,
then we should have those. The thing of the daycare, the pre-K,
yeah.
I don't think it's a money issue, I think it's a space issue. We've talked about it in the
Oh,
past.
Space is an issue
So if
too.
you don't, but if we don't deal with the space issue now we have one-time monies that we could use on certain things, and so we're not gonna have, next year, we're gonna come here in September, and we're gonna say, well, maybe the following year, we'll have extra pre-Ks, and we all know, and we all support pre-Ks. At some point, we gotta say, no, we gotta get space, we gotta make some tough decisions, we gotta do something different with buildings. We have, school building stuff that's up in the air, but that's, to me, is where we need to, rather than have a goal that's about a bunch of different things, I'd rather have more specific, fewer goals, such as, we need space for pre-K, something along those lines. The only other request that I have between now and then is, and I said this the last time, every year we look at the goals, and we don't look back to where each one was last year, and a little couple sentence comment about where we're at with it, because it'll make different, like I've been looking today trying to find the old ones. I'd rather have last year's goal on human capital was X. Here's my little summary of what we think we were good, and we might have to do some of the things the same, but just an update of where we were last year, so we're not just,
All right, I'm gonna send that out to the whole committee, because we made that part of the self-eval in terms of feedback. I'll get that to the committee on September 13th, and I'll just take the same document and attach it to the goals. So for the next iteration of talking about goals, we'll have that with it.
and I said it was my last, just, I think there's too much in there personally, I think narrowing it down between now and then, might make sense to just, as far as one member, that's my.
It's always a challenge to try to stay narrow and tight.
Yep, but that's just my opinion. With that, I yield, thank you.
We're at 8 now rather than 10, so
Okay.
I'm feeling pretty good about that.
All right, guys, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Roll call, Deb?
Mr. Agia?
Yes.
Mr. Costa?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Mayor Coogan?
Yes.